Hey everyone, welcome to this edition of Just Parlays. I'm Jim Williams along with Chris King. And Christopher, I hope you had a nice weekend. It was a wild and crazy one. There's a lot of things going on. Um, we are, we don't have yet, but we might have to go on suicide watch for Scott Steen because of what happened with his Chiefs. But, things happen and, that's why the Bengals, who know, right? I mean, they've won 3 games that by all rights they shouldn't have. And, they're dealing the hot hand right now. So what are you going to do, right?
Well, let's be honest. The Chiefs, for as well as they played down the stretch last week against Buffalo, they imploded at key moments in this game. You look right before the half; they had the ball first and goal at the 1. They tried to get greedy and go for a touchdown. It backfired. And after that, they went into a tailspin in the second half. They didn't do much of anything offensively until that last drive, and then they get inside the 5-yard line. They run the ball once. They get sacked on 2 consecutive plays, nearly lose the ball in a fumble, and have to kick a field goal to tie the game up at the end of regulation. And then they win the coin toss. Everybody's thinking, well, here we go with the same thing as last week. And Mahomes throws an interception, and Cincinnati goes down the field and kicks field goal. But, I mean, the Chiefs don't have anybody with the blame but themselves for the way they played the last minute or so of the first half on throughout the rest of the game.
And, Mahomes came out and owned it. I mean, he didn't try to say anything other than, they came out, they scored 21 points in the first half, and then they were MIA for the second half. So,
yeah, it seems like they got flummoxed by a 3-1-7 defense. Like, all of a sudden, that was some new thing.
Well, I mean, the one thing that Cincinnati did was they made adjustments, and they said, okay, they wanted to weather the storm in the first half. They started talking about the adjustments, from what I understand, in the second quarter. They decided to make slight adjustments in the second quarter, then throw this entirely new thing at them in the third quarter. And it seems to, as you said, a bit of a flummox situation for Patrick Mahomes, who was making throws that in the second half that were very un-Mahomian. They didn't look right. And I'm not saying he was injured or whatever. It had to be a part of it was a defense he hadn't seen. And you have to give Cincinnati a little bit of credit because, at the end of the day, they've walked away with 3 wins, and it's just, you can't luck into 3 wins. It just doesn't work that way.
Well, and also Kansas City defensively, where was the pass rush? That Cincinnati offensive line was 31st in the regular season in pass block win rate. We saw Burrow get dumped 9 times by Tennessee.
Right.
He got dumped, 4 or 5 times by the Raiders, and the Chiefs sack him once.
Whoops. Yeah. I don't know. It was a very weird game. The game at the Rams and the 49ers, they played the kind of game that they wanted to play. It was a very ugly, messy, sloppy, game. And the Rams had just enough with Cooper Kupp down the stretch to pull that one out.
Well, they got help because Jaquiski Tartt dropped that interception that hit him in the hands. I mean, that could have completely turned the game around right there.
For sure. Yeah.
And San Francisco never really established a run game for the majority of that contest, and that's their bread and butter. You look at the half; they had 20-some yards on the ground.
Right.
They were trying to rely on Garoppolo throwing the ball, and as we know, that hasn't really been.
They're stock and trade. Yeah,
it hasn't been a penchant for success if you're the 49ers.
Yeah, and, Jimmy G, who is not going to be there next year, we know that, will be doing that for somebody else, and we'll find out who that is. There are a number of teams that need quarterbacks. In fairness to Jimmy G, he had a bad thumb. He had a quad pull in his right side, and he had his shoulder on his on his throwing side was hurt. So, but that all being said, he did make a really silly mistake there toward the end of the game when he tossed the ball which ended up being intercepted. But
Well, and that's just like he did against Dallas. Remember that he had that forced that overthrow that got picked off and put the Cowboys back in the game.
yeah, so there's been some crazy. Then there was some crazy on Saturday when everybody in the world was wishing Tom Brady all the best, except for Tom Brady, who called Jason Light, the general manager of the Bucs, and said, I haven't retired yet. Okay, I know.
Why did his own foundation put out a tweet saying he retired?
I'm sorry, what?
I said, why would his own foundation put out a tweet saying he retired?
I have no idea. I have no clue what.
I asked Rock about that, and Rock said that, he's not going to believe it until he hears it from Brady himself.
Well, there's a bit of a joke going on that Brady now might play just to spite Adam Schefter and Jason La Canfora and all of the experts who quote unquote had him retired. So we'll see. It is interesting and never a dull moment, and it kind of like it overshadowed Sunday, which I don't think Brady ever wanted. I mean, and that's why I think he came out quickly to Jason Light at the Bucs and everyone else and said, "Hey, no, tamp this down. We're not doing it." And
well, what do you think? Do you think he will eventually retire, or do you think he's going to come back?
Well, I think at this point he's torn as to what he wants to do. I think that if he can sit down with Jason Light, who used to play with him as a teammate, and then of course was instrumental in getting him to Tampa. I think if they feel that they can be competitive, I think that there's a possibility he comes back. I think if he feels that they're not going to be competitive, that is it worth finishing? I mean, he finished the game. I mean, what would have been his last game, he finished, in Tom Brady-esque style. He took the team down, they tied the game, and the defense of the Buccaneers blew it in 45 seconds. So it's not that there wasn't a bad taste in anybody's mouth leaving that stadium that Brady had not done his job. Okay. So I think he would be okay with walking out after that, even, and also having the season he had, which was, arguably an MVP type season. It was statistically one of his best. So I would think he would be okay with walking away with that. But there's the competitive side of him, which I don't know. He doesn't play golf. There's a lot of things he doesn't do. And, I'm curious as to what are you going to do with that time afterwards. And I think Peyton Manning kind of showed him the way, right? What Peyton did is he didn't go jump into the broadcast booth. He did advertising with, Brad Paisley and that whole situation. He also is now involved in an attempt to buy the Broncos. And I actually wrote a column yesterday saying that I thought it'd be wise for the Glazers, not that I'm spending their money, that it'd be wise for them to offer him a stake in the team and offer him the CEO of, and he and Jason could work together and build the team, because he's going to live in Florida anyway. That would give him an opportunity to stay in football at the highest possible, area. So whether that's, in the cards, I don't know. I truly don't. But I do think that at the end of the day, it's going to be decided by him, and it will be announced by him. And I expect that any announcement that he's going to do is going to come after the Super Bowl. I don't expect him to show up at 4:00 this afternoon and say I'm retiring.
So now, if he leaves, does Arians follow suit?
Arians has already said that he will coach this year. It's the last year of his contract. So I think Bruce will do that. I think that if he were to leave, if Bruce were to leave, then of course I believe that either Byron Leftwich or Todd Bowles would get the head coaching job in Tampa Bay. One of the two of them will get it.
I'm surprised Leftwich hasn't gotten the job yet.
I think that he might be offered the Jacksonville job, but I think he may hang on and say, you know what, Bruce is going to be leaving here soon. and maybe the best thing I can do is just hang, and I could, I'll stay with the Bucks and not have to worry about, all the drama in Jacksonville. So, but Todd Bowles may, take another job if he's offered another job. So we'll see. So I think Brady will go out on Brady's terms, and it could be, this month or it could be next year. We'll see. But he will go out on his own terms, and I do think that he and Jason Light will have conversations before that happens. So we'll see. But yeah, this weekend was a PR nightmare and very un-Brady-esque because he's very controllable about everything that goes out that's on his name. And when he didn't make the announcement, I knew right off the get-go that there was a problem. And just because Adam, who is right 70% of the time, said it, or Jason said it, or any of the guys said it, doesn't mean it's true. Now, as I said, I think some people would some Brady fans would just as soon him, jump in there just to cause grief for the folks at ESPN. But well, I don't think that's going to be the case.
I'm sure Ray was apoplectic when he saw the tweets. Because you know how mellow he is when it comes to talking.
Yeah. No, I think what he wanted is he likes to control the narrative, and if you can't control the narrative, which he couldn't at that point, he just needed to get out and say, "Look, there's nothing here. Okay, I hear what they say, but it ain't what it is." So we'll see. We'll definitely see. Well, tell you what, we've got a whole bunch of good stuff coming up. Some really good mid-majors in college basketball, some stuff on the ice, and some really good association games. But first, let's talk about our good friends at BetMGM and Caesars Sportsbook, because we have a couple of deals here, which is really, really cool. So let's get to that first. All right, so here's the deal. You want to try BetMGM because they have a special deal for just you folks who are used to watching us right here on Winners and Whiners. Okay, here's the offer. You get risk-free the first bet up to $1,000 for new customers only. Now, you head over to BetMGM Sportsbook, you select the state that you're in, and you hit the register button. Enter your verification personal information when asked to, enter the sports code, which, as you can see right there, is right in front of you, and it's also scrolling along below, and that's Video Winners. And when they ask you to do it, and you do it, okay? You read your offer terms and conditions before setting up account. You finish the process and set up your new sportsbook account. You make at least a $10 deposit. So, put a little skin in the game here, folks. This is your opportunity to, start your account, at BetMGM. Now, place your first real money wager on any of the sports games that you see out there that you choose. Some of them you might choose for after you see what we're doing here today, okay? So then, here's what happens. If the bet wins, your winnings and stakes will be given to you as usual. Now, should you bet and lose, don't worry about it because you're given a free bet equal to the value of your stake. Now, the maximum amount, as we said before, goes up to $1,000. Free bet will be accredited to your account within 24 hours of, the wagering when it's finished. And then the bet will expire 7 days after being issued to your account, and you cannot withdraw it for cash. Now, finally, the link to the offer is in our show box below. You must be 21 years of age to participate. It's available in Arizona, New Jersey, New York, Indiana, Colorado, Tennessee, West Virginia, Iowa, Virginia, Michigan, Pennsylvania, the District of Columbia, and Wyoming. And as always, we say, wager responsibly and wisely. Okay. Now, here's for the folks, Caesars Sportsbook in New York and Louisiana. We welcome the folks down in the Bayou country to our show and to the ability to bet using Caesars Sportsbook. Now, they're going to match up to $1,500 when you deposit $50 or more for the first time in your Caesars account with using the mobile app on your Caesars mobile app phone, okay? The bonus code, which is right there, you can see it. It's in the show box below, and it's scrolling on below, is what you need to do. You click on the link to in the show box. It'll take you out there. All other states, as we said, Caesars is continuing the promo in other states where they're going to match you dollar for dollar for the first bets you make using their sports app. And you must also deposit $50 in your account to activate it. And then, of course, all the information, as I said, is in the show box below. Just follow the prompts. Very simple. And finally, BetRivers Sportsbook in Louisiana. Okay. Now, they're going to give you a bonus match up to $250 for your first deposit using their app. So we've got all kinds of things going on. Everything's in the show box below. I got to tell you, it's really fun to see all of these different options you have. And welcome to the state of, welcome to betting to the state of Louisiana. Use your apps, bet on the mobile phone. It is the wisest and easiest way to do it. And we thank MGM, we thank Caesars, and we thank Rivers Casino for participating with us right here at Winners and Whiners and taking care of our people. All right? Okay, cool. Now, we are moving on up to the mid-majors, and we're starting with Wilmington and Drexel. Should be Roger.
We've got a question asking us about what we think about Brady Quinn calling Joe Burrow the next Tom Brady. First, I'm going to say this, Jennifer. Consider the source. You're talking about Brady Quinn. What did he do in the NFL? Pretty much nothing. Now, I'm not going to take anything away from what Joe Burrow's done. He's been a terrific quarterback. He's lived up to the number one overall draft pick hype. He's got the Bengals in the Super Bowl. Comparing him to somebody like Tom Brady would be like comparing back in the 80s or the 90s, comparing someone like Drew Bledsoe to Joe Montana. There's not enough of a track record. If Burrow can consistently put up the numbers that we've seen these last 2 years, sure, he might go on that trajectory. But for every guy that's like Brady, there are 3 or 4 guys that are like Todd Blackledge or Tony Eason or
Brady Quinn.
Or Brady Quinn that do absolutely nothing. I give Cincinnati a ton of credit. They played inspired football. They dug themselves out of a hole. They put themselves into a position where they could win the game. They shut down Kansas City in the second half. They're in the Super Bowl. Good for them. Comparing Burrow to Brady after 2 years, and not even 2 full years, remember he got hurt last season,
right,
is a little bit early in my opinion.
Here's what I would say about that, okay? We all love Dan Marino. Dan was arguably as good a quarterback.
I love Dan Marino.
What? That's right, fine. You don't have to love the Dan Marino. I love Dan Marino. Fair enough. But my point is this. Danny got in a Super Bowl in his second season in the NFL, and he never once went back again, okay? Credit to the Cincinnati Bengals for doing a couple things. They drafted well. They signed some free agents, which helped them.
Yep.
They were arguably a year, I would think, behind what they thought was going to be success. And they had it. So now it's a matter of sustaining it, okay? We just talked about Tom Brady. Tom Brady's done it for 20-plus years. Joe Burrow's done it for a year, okay? And he hasn't even finished that yet. So let's, before we anoint anybody, the next whomever, let's let it play out. And you know what? Who knows? He's got the talent. He could very well be the next Tom Brady. But
I think if you ask Joe Burrow right now, he's telling you that he's more focused on being Joe Burrow rather than being the next anybody.
Right. No, 100% true. And I would be concerned if he wasn't. I'd be concerned if he didn't want to be the best Joe Brady that he could be. And, right now, we saw that so many people had deemed that Aaron Rodgers was the next Tom Brady, and he's not in the playoffs anymore. And we had Patrick Mahomes was the next Tom Brady, and he's not there either. And then Tom Brady was the next Tom Brady, and he's not there either. So, we got Matthew Stafford and we got Joe Burrows, okay? 2 guys that have come about this in 2 totally different ways. So let's don't, I appreciate your enthusiasm and go out there and be a Bengals fan and root old Joe on. But I gotta disagree with Brady Quinn that that he's the
As long as Joe Burrow doesn't turn out to be the next Brady Quinn, I think everybody will be happy.
Yeah, well, as long as he can consistently win in Cincinnati, which it looks like he's going to be able to do. Remember that Cincinnati still has plenty of draft picks and cap money, so they can make that franchise a whole lot better. And that's the scary part if you're in the AFC North, because there's so much indecision in what's going on in Cleveland, Pittsburgh, and Baltimore. Stability in Cincinnati, which is not a phrase that you would heard very much just recently. I don't think Mike Brown would have thought they were going to be in the Super Bowl, but there they are, and they deserved to get there.
And you think about Mike Brown when they when Steve Young signed with the Los Angeles Express in the USFL, and they went and Steinberg told them the offer that the Express gave to Steve Young, and asked if they could match it. He said, "Yeah, as soon as they strike oil under Smitty Field,
right,
the practice field that the Bengals played at." I mean, that just shows you the lack of, like you said, the lack of stability that franchise has had. I mean, it's the first time they've been to the Super Bowl and lost in January of 1989 after the 88 season, when Montana led that drive down 92 yards in a couple minutes to hit John Taylor.
In a frozen Pontiac, Michigan.
Right.
In the amazing dome up there, which I spent way too much time in. All right. So we got UNC Wilmington, the Seahawks, over the Dragons of Drexel, and this game's being played in Wilmington.
Right. Drexel's 9-9 this year. The Seahawks are 14-5, and they've been on a tear of late. They're 8-1 at home. Drexel's 3-5 on the road. Like we said, UNC Wilmington, they've won 11 in a row. They swept Northeastern last week, winning on the road 74-68, then followed that up with a 67-62 home win. Then Saturday, they went and took down Hofstra 78-72. They're 8-0 in the CAA. Kyle Siddle's done a really good job with that team. Drexel, they've been up and down. They're coming in off a 66-62 road loss to Towson. That dropped them to 9-9. They're 4-4 in the conference. They do have a great point guard that nobody ever talks about in Cameron Winter. Winter can make things difficult and do his best to keep them in the game. But in the end, playing on the road is going to be a real challenge against a UNC Wilmington team that's been playing so well. Drexel's just 255th in scoring defense, 318th in field goal percentage defense, and 279th in 3% three-point defense. Zach Spiker's team has got to clean up on the defensive end. Drexel's just 5 against the spread in their last 18 on Monday. Meanwhile, UNC Wilmington 9-0 against the spread in their last 9 after an ATS win. 4-0 in their last 4 at home against teams with a losing road record. 5-0 in their last 5 at home. They're 10-1 against the spread in this 11-game win streak. So they're 10-1 in their last 11 following a straight-up win. When you're on a roll like that, it's tough to get knocked off kilter. And Drexel, with their road struggles, you have to give the edge to UNC Wilmington to make it 12 straight wins and improve to 15-5. It's hard to believe that team was 3-5 earlier this season.
Yeah, and it looks like the momentum's swinging in their direction, which is good for them. And, right now, if you're going to make a play for the tournament, you better start winning and stacking up those wins. So exactly. If the Seahawks hope to make it to the that's a one-bid league probably. So
that's the problem. And LA and you all talked about it the other day about how there's so many of these leagues that are bid leagues that good teams that don't get in because they don't win the conference tournament. It makes it difficult because you get 7 or 8 teams from these lower conferences where the team is barely 500 in conference play or 8 or whatever in conference play. And these teams, play well, get left out.
Mm-hmm. And it's a shame, but unfortunately, that's what happens. Let's move on to our next game on the list today. And that's going to take us out west, my friends, to the coast where Santa Clara, who have been good to us as of late, are playing the Pacific Tigers.
Who have also been good to us, but they just keep losing.
Right.
Herb, everybody remembers him from
team.
but he's the coach out there at Santa Clara now. The Broncos 13-8. They're coming off a tough 88-85 road loss to San Francisco. And let me tell you, the Dons have played some good basketball.
Mm-hmm.
And you look at the West Coast Conference, you have to think that's normally a one-bid league, maybe a two-bid league, BYU or somebody else. You look right now, and you've got Gonzaga 17-2, St. Mary's is 17-4, BYU is 17-6, San Francisco 17-5. So you've got 4 teams out there with 17 wins, and they're probably not all going to make the tournament.
Well, you're going to end up with 4 teams easy with 20 wins.
Right, and then you've got Santa Clara and San Diego both in 13.
Right.
They're both, 4 or 5 games above 500. So, I mean, you're looking at some good basketball out there, but the problem is there's not going to be enough spots for all these teams.
And, what happens sometimes in that case, and you've seen it, we all seen it, that one team will get hot in the tournament, in the conference tournament. They'll end up winning it, and it may not be one of the top 17 winning teams. It might be one of these 13 win teams, like Santa Clara. They win the tournament. They get the automatic bid, and then you've got Gonzaga. Clearly, is going to get the at-large bid. So they're probably going to be a 2-team in there, but you got to hope that it's somebody beating Gonzaga, because Gonzaga otherwise is going to win that tournament, that conference tournament, get the automatic, and then it's going to be everybody and their grandmother trying to get that final second slot. But and one of the good things that could be coming out of this is, we've said this a number of times, the power conferences aren't as powerful as they have been in the past. So maybe, just maybe, that might play to the benefit of the West Coast Conference.
But yeah, in this game though, we're talking about Pacific 6-13. They are coming off a whole upset of BYU, but
Mm-hmm.
Every once in a while, a blind squirrel finds a nut.
Right.
Santa Clara is 10-3 at home. Pacific 0-7 on the road. They're 307 scoring offense at 65.6 points a game. They're 297 field goal percentage. They're 327 the 2-point shooting. And you've got to face a Santa Clara team that is good offensively. I mean, that's been Herb Sendek's calling card going back to his Miami of Ohio days. The Broncos are 55th scoring offense, better than 77 points a night. They're 16th in field goal percentage. They're 31st in 3-point shooting. And this goes back to what we talked about last week too, Jim. A mid-major team that is good at the free throw line, 75.3%, 49th in the country. You can't overstate those numbers enough. Pacific 2-12 spread in their last 14 against teams with a winning record. They're 0-6 in their last 6 on the road against teams with a winning home record. They're 0-6 in their last 6 on the road against teams with a home winning percentage better than 600. Jennifer, yeah, Pacific lost by 8 at Portland, but before you try to hang your hat on the fact that they hung against Portland, let's remind everybody, this is a Portland team that brought back no players from last season's team. Everybody graduated or transferred after Terry Porter resigned. It's a brand new team. It's a brand new coach there. They're still trying to figure everything out. The Pilots, sure, they played well. They're 11-10. They're 2-4 in the conference. Their 2 wins are over Pepperdine and Pacific. Those 2 teams residing near the bottom of the West Coast Conference standings. There's a big difference between playing Portland and playing a team like Santa Clara or playing Gonzaga. And while they did beat BYU, this was not at home. And like we said, 0-7 on the road. I can't trust a Pacific team. By the way, that 8-point loss they suffered was their second closest road loss of the season, next to a 6-point loss to UC Davis. It lets the team out in the Midwest. Leonard Perry's got his work done, and we'll leave it at that. You don't have a weapon to rely on outside of Jeremiah Bailey and maybe Alonzo Anderson. I I feel bad for the Tigers. David Stoudemire was there. He left. He's gone right down the tube.
Well, the good news for the conference is that pretty much everywhere you go, there's a beautiful campus, so that's not a bad thing. All right, we're going to leave the hardwood and head to the ice, where we've got a couple of interesting NHL games tonight.
Well, first, Jim, James wants us to talk about Duke and Notre Dame for a minute. So I'll, even though we don't like to talk about it.
You're our friend. We'll be more than happy to do that for
you. Duke, obviously, they played good basketball. They're 17-3. They've won 3 in a row since that 1-point overtime loss to Florida State. Speaking of Florida State, Jim, they've gone down the tubes again. Lost a couple games in a row.
Yeah.
Notre Dame 14-6. They won 4 straight. They beat Virginia Saturday night. They're 7-2 in the ACC, which is surprising. My biggest concern for Mike Bray's team is the same problem that he's had for the last 2 or 3 years. They have no depth.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're looking at a team, they go 7 deep, and that's about it. So you get into foul trouble where, you have somebody, God forbid, get injured, and you're going to be in trouble when you're Notre Dame because you don't have anybody to rely on the bench. I mean, Duke, Duke's got 37 guys, and they're all,
they're all Duke guys.
As much as Notre Dame played good basketball of late, I don't like the chances here. Even being at home, I know Duke hasn't played much on the road. They're just 2-2 as a road team this season. But Notre Dame's got to contend with the 10th in the nation in scoring offense and 11th in field goal percentage. The depth, I mean, Trevor Keels, I know he's questionable today with a calf injury. He's missed the last 3 games. But you're talking about missing one guy. They still got Paulo Banchero, who hopefully he figured out that basketball's a 2-half game because earlier in the season he'd score 20 in the first half and score 1 in the second. But it comes down to the fact that Duke has depth. Notre Dame doesn't. And I feel bad for them if, Atkinson or Wesley or Prentice don't get in foul trouble because then you go to what? There's pretty much nothing. When you run a 7-man rotation, you're setting yourself up for failure because you're going to burn those guys out.
Mm-hmm. Well, James, in your honor, what we want people to do is smash the like button and hit the subscribe button, okay? And hope, and the other thing with Duke is it's the farewell tour for Krzyzewski. So that's kind of a, if there's an intangible there, that might be the intangible.
I give Notre Dame credit that they're only a 5-point underdog in this game because with a 7-man rotation, you could be going out of the gym in a hurry, and then what? You don't even have anybody to put in to chew up minutes.
Right, makes it even tougher. All right,
the water boy.
Yeah, exactly. Let's go to the ice. Speaking of water, let's move on to frozen water, and there we got the Panthers and the Blue Jackets, and that is a huge number.
It is. It's in Columbus, which doesn't help matters any. Just imagine what this number would have been in Florida. It's been a run of really high numbers around the league. I saw Colorado went off at minus 550 yesterday against Buffalo. We've saw them go off at a minus 600 or so against Arizona. This one went up from what it was. It was at about 240 last night. It's gone to 310. That's why I put the puck line in there, minus 1.5 at minus 120. Florida's 31-9-5. Everybody's happy if you're a Florida fan. I'm personally not, but that's okay. It's good for hockey when you see teams places that don't know what ice is unless it's from in a drink cup. Have some success. Columbus 20-21-1. They're 12-9-1 at home. Florida's 8-6-5 on the road. Columbus played last night in Montreal to beat the Canadiens 6-3. It doesn't move the needle all that much, but the fact that they're playing a second game of back-to-back certainly is a factor. It's going to be Sergei Bobrovsky, 2-4 and 3 of the 250 against 921 save percentage. In net for Florida, Elvis Merzelkins, 14-11-1 with a 318 against the 911 save percentage and 2 shutouts for Columbus. This next line tells you something, Jim. The Panthers are second in the league in goals per game at 4.04. Columbus is ranked 30th in keeping the puck into their own net. That does not bode well if you're the Blue Jackets. Neither does an X line.
I was going to say.
The last 10 meetings between these teams, the Panthers have picked up a point in all of them. They're 8-0-2. They've won 7 straight meetings. The last 5 have all come by multiple goals, including a 9-2 whipping of the Blue Jackets earlier this month down in Sunrise. Florida's 5-0 in their last 5 against the Eastern Conference. They're 4-0 in their last 4 against the Metropolitan Division. Columbus 1-5 in their last 6 as a home underdog, and they're 0-4 in their last 4 against the Atlantic Division. Congratulations, Columbus. You beat Montreal. Guess what? So is everybody else. Now you can play somebody that actually can play hockey.
Yeah. Earlier in the season, they were talking about Sergei Borotsky perhaps being a Vezina candidate, and he hasn't done anything to
bear that out.
Yeah, he hasn't done anything to tarnish that possibility.
Yeah,
So,
I think right now, if you were to put the top 5 guys in the mix there, it'd probably be Bobrovsky, Vasilevsky,
right.
Obviously Igor Shesterkin from the Rangers, Jack Campbell from the Maple Leafs, and probably the 5th one would probably be tough. I'd probably have to lean toward either Frederik Andersen from Carolina or maybe Tristan Jerry from Pittsburgh, somebody like that. But, I mean, those 5 guys are all interchangeable. UC Saros from Nashville has played really well as well. It would not be a goaltender from Columbus.
It's 2 – you got 2 guys in the state of Florida.
Right.
So that's weird. All right, let's move on. Goodbye, Columbus. We're moving on.
We'll move north of the border. We'll go to Ottawa. The Edmonton Oilers, Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, and the guys on the road as they head to Ottawa to face the Senators at the Canadian Tire Center. Edmonton 22-16-2, Ottawa 13-21-4. Ottawa struggled at home. They're 6-11-1. Edmonton 10-8-2 on the road. Of course, Ottawa took a big blow this past week when their all-star nominee Drake Batherson was injured when he was cross-checked by the Buffalo goaltender Aaron Dell, who then was suspended for 3 games. That's something you don't see very often. The Oilers 10th in the league in goals per game at 3.3. Ottawa's 22nd at 2.76. It's supposed to be Mikko Koskinen, 15-8-1 with a 318 goals against and a 900 save percentage for Edmonton. He'll face Ottawa's Matt Murray, 3-6-2 with a 294 goals against and a 906 save percentage. Edmonton, after that long skid where they couldn't beat anybody, has won 4 in a row. Perhaps the signing of Evander Kane will boost them and give them another scoring weapon. I know he scored the other night and helped Edmonton get a win. The Oilers 12-2 in their last 14 after giving up 2 goals or less. They're 4-1 in their last 5 after a win. Meanwhile, Ottawa 1-5 in their last 6 against teams with a winning record. They're 1-4 in their last 4 with 1 day of rest. And just like we talked about a minute ago with Florida and Columbus, with one team owning the series recently, Edmonton has won 9 of the last 10 meetings, including each of the last 6 in Ottawa. I give DJ Smith a lot of credit. He's tried to get by with smoke and mirrors and patching that lineup together for Ottawa. It's not gonna pan out here against a team with McDavid and Draisaitl. There's just too much offensive firepower in Edmonton for the Senators to hang in.
Well, we knew eventually Connor and the boys were going to wake up, and once they did, it was a bit of an earthquake going on up there in Canada when the Oilers started rolling. So, good game out of them tonight against definitely an undermanned Senators team. All right, from here, we're going to head on to the association.
Yeah, we're going to move on to everybody's favorite doormat. Our good buddy Elliot always talks about fade the Pacers, and good God, if you've watched them play defense lately, you'd think that you were just doing a layup drill against them on the offensive end of the floor. They give 158 last week to Charlotte. The Clippers are in town tonight. They're a 2.5-point underdog. Figure that one out. Just because you play the second game of back-to-back, you're all of a sudden an underdog going against an Indiana team that can't win. The Clippers are 26-26. They evened their record on the year after whipping Charlotte 115-90 on the road yesterday, in a game that probably wasn't as close as the final score would indicate. Indiana's 18-33. That includes a 12-13 mark at home. The Clippers are 11-14 on the road. Indiana's 21st in scoring defense, 26th in field goal percentage defense, and 23rd in three-point defense. Clips are 9th in scoring defense, 5th in field goal percentage defense, and 3rd in three-point defense. LA's 4-0 in their last 4 against teams with a losing creative record. They're 6-1 in their last 7 overall. They're 5-1 in their last 6 on the road. Indiana's won 6-1 against the spread in their last 8 at home against teams with a losing road record. The Clips have won the last 5 meetings between these teams against the spread. On the injury report, you won't see Malcolm Brogdon. He's out with a sore Achilles again. You won't see Miles Turner. He's out with that stress reaction in his foot. TJ McConnell and TJ Warren also out. O'Shea Brissett and Goga Bitadze questionable for the Pacers with ankle and foot injuries, respectively. For the Clippers, yeah, you won't see Paul George. You won't see Kawhi Leonard. Everybody knows that. Avika Zubac is questionable with a calf injury, and Nicholas Batum questionable with a sore back. It's not going to matter. Indiana, hasn't figured out what defense is. They probably made a mistake getting rid of Nate McMillan a couple of years ago. Coach, at least then they had a defensive presence. You're putting too much pressure on Sabonis and LeVert and Chris Duarte here for Indiana to try to keep up. Look for the Clippers to get the win on the road to sweep it back and get back over 500 this season.
You're going to see a lot of pictures over the next couple of weeks at SoFi Field. It's in Los Angeles, and if you look off to the side on some of those pictures, you'll see the old Great Western Forum, which was the building that Jack Kent Cooke built on that plot of land there just south of LAX. Anyway, that's where Steve Ballmer's putting his new multi-billion-dollar building. So you're going to have at that complex, SoFi is going to have the Rams and Charger Stadium. You're going to have the Clips having their own building out there at what is Stan Kroenke's $5 billion entertainment and residential and commercial center out there, as I say, in Inglewood, which is just a few, it's about 1.5 miles, 2 miles south of LAX out there. So when you take a look at that big round building out there, that's going to be gone soon, and it's going to be rebuilt in 2 years' time so that the Clippers will have their own home and they will not have to play at the Crypto Center, which we like to call the Staples Center because that's what we like. So we're going to get that. So from the
whatever we want.
Yeah, from the Clippers to the Pacers, we go to.
We're going to go to the Heat and the Celtics. But real quick, Jennifer wants to know what we think about a future ticket on the Grizzlies to win the NBA title. Memphis is now at plus 2,500 to win the NBA title, according to BetMGM. Memphis, they played some really good basketball. They got a very talented team there. The biggest concern that I have is that they play in the Western Conference, and that means you've got to go through the Suns and the Warriors in order to get to the finals before you have to worry about facing a team like the Nets or the Bucks or even Chicago in the East. Memphis, I think they're a lot like Cincinnati. I think Memphis is probably a year away. They probably need to get they need a bigger big man than Steven Adams. I mean, Adams is a good glass cleaner, but he doesn't provide a ton of offense. I was kind of disappointed they traded Jonas Valanciunas to New Orleans in that deal because Valanciunas is a double-double machine, and he can actually do something on the offensive end. There's obviously worse options out there. I don't know if I would put a serious chase into it, but I mean, Memphis, they've surprised a lot of people. They played, like I said, they played quality basketball with John Morant. You can never count them out. A lot of it's going to depend on how Dylan Brooks comes back from that ankle injury after the All-Star break, because he's such a key cog in the Grizzlies' rotation. And furthermore, my concern also, too, not only besides the Suns and the Warriors, can the Grizzlies play defense enough in the playoffs? Because, the freewheeling and all that is great in the regular season, but the playoffs are a grind, and you're not going to beat teams 130 to 125 in the playoffs in a 7-game series on a regular basis if you expect to win the title. This isn't the good old days where, you had the Lakers and the Celtics all the time in the 80s with Bird and McHale and Magic Johnson and Kareem and Worthy and all those guys. Now it's more of a grind. It's a slog. Sometimes you're lucky if you see teams break the triple-digit mark. As for Groovy Cat liking the Lakers, I wouldn't touch the Lakers if you paid me. We talked about this with LA the other day, Jim. I mean, obviously, they're a team with not a ton of depth. They're a team in disarray. They have 3 guys that want to shoot the ball at every possession, 2 of which can't stay healthy, and the third who will just fire up shots for the hell of it and come nowhere near the basket.
Well, over the weekend, LeBron was sent home to LA for treatment. So I don't know if he's playing in the next couple of games.
I don't believe he is. And I don't know what the latest status on Anthony Davis was. I know that, he had a wrist injury. I hadn't seen anything new about it. The MRIs came back negative. But, I mean, he just came back from being hurt.
Mm-hmm.
And now he's coming out and saying that his knee isn't all the way healthy either.
Right.
And why are you on the floor?
Yeah. Go get healed. So the Heat, actually, the Heat are a team that we've been high on most of the season because they've been able to win despite exactly what you're talking about, and that is injuries.
Yeah, I mean, you look, Jimmy Butler's been hurt. Bam Adebayo missed 5-6 weeks after thumb surgery. Tyler Hero's been in the protocols.
Right.
All these guys have been in and out of the lineup, but they're still winning games. They're still atop the Eastern Conference with a 32-18 record. Boston's 26-25. They've been up and down all season long, and we talked about that with LA the other day too, about the lack of a true point guard on that Celtics team and how that could hamper them come playoff time. This is going to be a defensive struggle, let's face it. Miami's 4th in the league in scoring defense, 104.5 points a game. They're 9th in field goal percentage defense. They're 14th in three-point defense. Boston is 6th in scoring defense at 104.8. They're 2nd in field goal percentage defense. They're 10th in three-point defense. It's going to come down to, depth. And right now, Miami has it because you can rely on Butler, you got Adebayo, you've got Duncan Robinson, you've got Heroes back now, you've got all these guys. The other day, Boston beat New Orleans 107-97, and 69 of their points came from the combination of Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. If one of those guys is off their game, they don't have anybody else you can rely on. Who are you going to rely on? Dennis Schroeder? Marcus Smart? Al Horford? The ghost of Al Horford? Why don't you just go get Tito Horford?
Right.
I'm sure you remember Tito Horford, Jim.
Yes, I do.
Well-trained Tito Horford.
Al Horford, in his best days, was not a big scorer.
Right.
He was a rebound machine, but he wasn't a scorer.
And you look at this, Miami 7-0 in their last 7 after a straight-up loss. They lost in triple overtime to Toronto on Saturday night. Boston 3-12-1 in their last 16 after an ATS win. They're 1-4 against the spread in their last 5 against teams with a winning record. And Miami has gone 9-2 against the spread in the last 11 meetings in Boston. Quick look at the injury report on that one shows that, let me see. It changes all the time, so I have to always go back and double check. Oh, there you go. Jimmy Butler's ruled out now for Miami. Kyle Lowry, I knew was out. Markieff Morris, I knew was out. Oladipo, I knew was out. So the big miss is Jimmy Butler, which means Adebayo and Hero and those guys have to step up. But it's always somebody else for Miami. We've talked about that. It's Gabe Vincent. It's Max Struss. It's all the guys that you wouldn't be able to identify. You couldn't pick them out in a lineup, but that go off for 15, 20, 25 points on any given night when somebody else is struggling. And Boston doesn't have that.
Well, the Miami situation with Pat Riley as the general manager and Spoelstra as the coach, they build teams, and that's what they. And you were talking about, I think it was Indiana, about the depth that they didn't have, and that's not the case in Miami. We've seen, as you said, 3 or 4 of their star players out of there, yet they've been able to, as a team, to play well enough stay in front of the rest of the teams in the East. So full marks to what Pat's done down there with Eric Spoelstra and the gang, and that's why Miami is such a dangerous team. Now, before we go to two for the money, let's talk again about our sponsors, because we're really happy to have all of the sponsorship that we get from Caesar Sportsbook and from BetMGM. So let's talk a little bit about the guys. Okay, let's try MGM. Now, try MGM. They've got a special winners and whiners offer, and we think that you're going to love it. Here's the deal. All right. Get a risk-free first bet up to $1,000 for all new customers using your phone app. You head over to BetMGM Sportsbook, select the state that you're in, hit the registration button, enter and verify your personal information when asked. Use the promo code. Now, this is you're not going to get this deal if you don't use a promo code. And that, of course, is Video Winners, which is in our show box below. So, don't worry if you can't find it or read it right there. It's in the show box below. All right. Then you read the offer terms and conditions before setting up your account. You finish the process, and you set up your new sportsbook account. Now, you must make a deposit, a little skin in the game there, of $10. Place your first real money wager on any sport that you are interested in, anything that maybe we might have shown you today. If your bet wins, your winnings and your stake will be given to you as usual. Should your bet lose, okay, you don't lose any money. You're given a free bet equal to the value of your stake. The maximum offer that they're going to cover is $1,000. Now, the free bet will be accredited to your account within 24 hours after the wager. This bet expires in 7 days after being issued to your account and cannot be withdrawn as real cash. Now, the link to the offers in our show box below. Remember that you must be 21 years or older to play. It's available in Arizona, New Jersey, New York, Indiana, Colorado, Tennessee, West Virginia, Iowa, Virginia, Michigan, Pennsylvania, the District of Columbia, and Wyoming. And as we've always said here, as both BetMGM and Caesars, we want you to wager responsibly and wisely. So let's move on to Caesar Sportsbook now. We're celebrating the fact that New York a couple weeks ago came to the party. Louisiana came last week to the party. And here's the deal. They're going to match up to $1,500 when you deposit $50 or more in your first account using this the Caesars Sportsbook app on your phone. The bonus number and name is right there. It's going to be in our show box below. And so is the link. Now, all other states, you're going to get an opportunity to have a bet up to $1,001 matched. So check the locations in the show box and understand that you have to put $50 into the to your deposit for the first time. Again, this is all for first-time bettors. And don't forget to use the bonus code to get your deal with Caesar Sportsbook. Now, one last note, and that is this one. Bet Rivers is a sportsbook in Louisiana. We welcome the state of Louisiana to the gaming business. And this is, again, using your Bet Rivers sports account on your phone. They're going to give you a bonus match up to $250 for your first deposit using their online app. Again, you must be 21 or older on all of these deals. And as we always say here, bet responsibly and be very cautious. Make sure that you know what you're doing before you get involved. Okay? All right, cool. Now, we're going to go from there to, how about two for the money? And here we go.
Yeah, like we said, Florida, I just put up the money line just so people can see how bad it is. I try to avoid the numbers like that. That's why I put the puck line up, because it's a little more palatable for you. But I think the Panthers should have no problem beating Columbus, going to 9-0-2 in the last 11 meetings, winning their 8th in a row in that series. The Hawks -2 over the Raptors. Toronto has not really impressed anyone on the road. Atlanta's been on a roll. They've won 7 in a row. DeAndre Hunter probable tonight. Trae Young questionable with a shoulder contusion. You You won't see Kem Birch for Toronto. He still has that broken nose. Goran Dragic hasn't been with the team since November. I don't even know why they list him on the injury report anymore. He's obviously, a non-factor. On the ice, our good buddy Jim Bruce Boudreau, Canucks go on the road to the Windy City to face the Blackhawks. Vancouver's finally healthy again. They'll have Thatcher Demko back between the pipes tonight after having to slog through with their third and fourth string goaltenders the last few games. I like them to get the road win over a Blackhawks team that struggles to score, apparently, unless they're playing Detroit. Speaking of Detroit, I had the entertaining time of watching the third period of their game against the Maple Leafs the other night, watching the Red Wings turn a 4-2 lead into a 7-4 loss by giving up 5 third-period goals. Always an entertaining time at the Little Caesars Arena. I'm sure Mickey Redmond didn't have a good time on doing the color commentary, but that's not my fault. And UNC Wilmington, -1.5 over Drexel. We said Seahawks are on a roll with 11 straight wins. Drexel's been up and down.
I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say I look for the Seahawks to win and make it 12 straight.
There you go. All right, so we've had two for the money. Let's go 4 for the show.
All right, we've got Golden State over Houston. Anybody have any questions about that?
Next one, Santa Clara.
Yeah, Santa Clara over Pacific. Like we said, the Tigers 0-7 on the road. I like Santa Clara's basketball. They play good offense. Sendek's team is motivated. They want to bounce back from that tough loss to San Francisco on the road. Pacific got a win over BYU, but it came to Pacific. Let me see the Tigers do something on the road, and maybe I won't put them in this spot. But as it stands, I'm going to take the Broncos. We said Edmonton has won 9 of the last 10 meetings over Ottawa, including the last 6 in Ottawa. Connor McDavid and Draisaitl, they've won 4 in a row. Look for them to make it 5 as they roll past the Sens here. And finally, Iowa on the road at Penn State at the Bryce Jordan Center in University Park. Look for Keegan Murray to have a big game for the Hawkeyes. Penn State struggles and comes up with a loss. Jennifer, the Pistons win over Cleveland was a fluke. Let's face it, Detroit is not a good basketball team. I'm not going to mince any words. For Cade Cunningham to post a triple-double after he had no points in the first half is one of those things that you're not going to see on a regular basis. I think also, the fact that Cleveland will play the front half of a back-to-back because they played New Orleans tonight. I think they got a little complacent. They thought that was going to be an easy win for them. And sometimes, when you overlook somebody, they come back and bite you, and that's the case that happened there. I don't expect to see Cleveland blow a lead going into the fourth quarter like they did. I mean, if you look, Cleveland jumped out in that game. It was 15-0, 4 minutes into the game. I think at that point they figured it was over and didn't expect that Detroit was going to try and mount a comeback. And, let's face it, if you break it down, Cleveland scored 7 points in the last 6.5 minutes. That's not going to happen on a regular basis. So kudos to the Pistons for pulling that one out. But if you play that game 50 times, Detroit might pull it out of there twice with the way things went.
Okay, let's go to our menu where you can pick a little bit of everything here.
And James, here, that answers your question right there on the top line. You asked if I thought that Vermont was giving too many points against Albany. I don't. The Catamounts play very good basketball. They're underrated because nobody ever talks about the America East Conference unless you're us, because everybody else just is like, what's the America East Conference? But John Becker, he's done a good job up there again in Burlington. The Catamounts have won 9 in a row. They're coming off a 13-point win over Maine. They're 7-0 in the America East. They've beaten pretty much everybody by double figures of late. You look at their last wins. Their last single-digit win was a 5-point win over Brown on December 10th on the road. They beat Colgate by 10. They beat New Hampshire by 14. They beat Stony Brook by 33. Remember, we told you Stony Brook goes to Vermont to get maple syrup, get beat, and go back home and eat pancakes. Then they beat UMBC on the road by 17. They beat the New Jersey Institute of Technology by 26. Then they beat Hartford by 10, Stony Brook by 13, Maine by 13. It's hard to argue with a team that's 10th in the league or 10th in the nation at effective field goal percentage of 56%. They're fifth in 2-point shooting at 58.1, and they don't turn the ball over. That's usually good success or a good trend for success. I know Albany's won a couple in a row. They beat UMass Lowell in overtime. They beat NJIT. They won 5-6. But in that 5 of 6 stretch, 2 of the wins were over Massachusetts Lowell. 2 of the wins were over the New Jersey Institute of Technology. The other over UMBC. They lost to Stony Brook in that stretch. None of those teams are at the level of Vermont. I look for the Catamounts to steamroll Albany, who's just 330 in offensive efficiency this season. San Diego State, we've talked about them, Jim, before. They're facing New Mexico at home. The Lobos, they beat San Jose State the other day at home, but this one's on the road. Brian Dutcher's team 9-1 at the Viejas Arena this year. I look for the Aztecs to stifle the Lobos there. And then we got a couple games from, another small conference nobody ever talks about. I look for Florida A&M, the Rattlers, Robert McCullum. His team's played some good basketball of late. And watch out for them. They've won now 6 in a row after starting the year 2-11. They come off a 65-60 win at Alabama A&M. They're going to face Alabama State tonight on the road. I like them with the points against the Hornets, coached by former NBA player Mo Williams. Speaking of the small teams there, Norfolk State, -3. The Spartans are 15-4. They're going to go on the road and face Lavelle Moton and North Carolina Central. I look for the Spartans to pick up a tight win in that one to improve to 16-4 on the season. Cleveland on the NBA hardwood, like we said, they lost that game yesterday to Detroit. I don't think they're going to overlook the Pelicans the way they overlooked the Pistons. They're playing at home. Look for the Cavs to get the win there. The Knicks over Sacramento. This is one of those games where you hate both teams equally. Marvin Bagley out for the Kings. Terrence Davis also out for the Kings. De'Aaron Fox is questionable. If he doesn't play, Sacramento's in trouble. I mean, even when he did play last week, we watched them lose by 53 to the Celtics. In the game that nobody wants to watch, the Portland Trailblazers, -4 over the Oklahoma City Thunder. In case you don't know, Portland obviously won't have Damian Lillard and Larry Nance, but Oklahoma City won't have leading scorer Jake Gilgeous-Alexander. He's out until after the All-Star break with a sprained ankle. That is a massive blow for a Thunder team that's last in the league in scoring, last in the league in field goal percentage, and last in three-point shooting. That's enough to tip the needle towards Portland. On the ice, the Maple Leafs, like we said, off that fresh off that 7-4 win over Detroit. It won't be Mrazek and net again, thank God. It'll be Jack Campbell against John Gillies for the Devils. I like for the Leafs to go on the road in New Jersey and beat them at the Prudential Center. Anaheim, -110 over Detroit. It should be John Gibson and Alex Nedeljkovic for the Red Wings. And I look for Florida and Columbus to go over 6.5. Like I said, the last meeting was 9-2. I expect it's going to be another high-scoring game between those teams tonight.
There you go. Any final thoughts before we jump out? Any final questions? Class, you've got the opportunity here.
Elliot, you didn't fade the Pacers? You're not going to take the Clippers? I mean, come on. You talk about we fade the Pacers all the time. We highlight that pretty much whenever we see Indiana on the schedule. Memphis against Philadelphia is going to be an interesting matchup tonight. The 76ers, last I saw, were a 4-point favorite. I'm not sure if that's shifted at all yet. Let me take a look at the quick injury report. Update says, let's see, is there anything on here? Milwaukee, Boston, there we go. Dylan Brooks obviously out. Tyus Jones is questionable. Yves Pond is now the G League for Philadelphia. Seth Curry is probable with a stiff back, but Joel Embiid will be rested tonight. So that's a big dent for the 76ers. Of course, Shake Milton's still out with a back injury. Paul Reed down in the G League. Ben Simmons, we all know about him. Furkan Korkmaz is questionable. I would probably take the extra points with Memphis, especially without Embiid. I mean, he's been on a real tear for Philadelphia of late. I'm surprised they're giving him a day off here. But, yeah, I would probably take Memphis with points in that contest. And Elliot said, you're right. Fade the Pacers. Absolutely.
Well done, Elliot.
But yeah, I do like that parlay you've got there, Elliot, Duke, Memphis, and the Leafs. New Jersey, they're too up and down for me. They're a young team. They'll get better. As long as they don't get better tonight, that's fine with me. They can get better after the All-Star break when I don't have to worry about seeing them.
There you go.
Yeah, Duke, we talked about Notre Dame having a short rotation and everything. So Duke should be able to take care of them. And like we said, with Embiid out for Philadelphia, that's a big blow for the 76ers and can only help Memphis.
There you go. All right, gang. Thank you very much for joining. Thanks to Chris King for his insights and all of the information. By the way, if for somehow you happen to miss it, don't worry about it. You can catch it by going right back here, or you can catch our podcasts, which you can find on Spotify, you can find it on Spreaker, and just about wherever you get your podcast. So if you miss us, don't worry. You'll find us on either here or you can find us on our podcast. All right. Either way, we are Just Parlays with Chris King. I'm Jim Williams. We will see you tomorrow at 1:30. Come on.
Don't forget to go tell a sorry brother to Scott Steen so he can see just how much fun it is to be on the losing side of a game in overtime.
3 o'clock. It's back to the window with Scott and just drop by and pay your respect.
You can all point it at Reichel and laugh like Nelson Muntz from The Simpsons because he's a Jets fan and they don't know what the playoffs are.
Even the Bengals know more about that. All right, guys and gals, thanks for joining us. Greatly appreciate it. Again, watch the boys on at 3 o'clock. They're very entertaining right here on the Winners and Whiners Sports Betting Network. For Chris King, I'm Jim Williams saying so long. We'll see you tomorrow, guys.